title. This is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight,
Bimbo Oloede.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, JTF in Borno State claims leader of Boko Haram terrorist group Abubakar Shekau may have been killed. Chief of Army Staff says no relenting in fight against insurgents. Meeting between federal government and university lecturers deadlocked again. Once again, the leadership question takes center stage in Lagos. Foremost industrialist Christopher Kolade says there's lack of accountability in government. And at least 24 policemen have been killed in Egypt amidst the crackdown on protesting supporters of ousted Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi.
On business news, the National Bureau of Statistics expects the rebasing of the nation's GDP to improve policies and decision-making.
And in sports news, it's good news for Nigerian football as the league management company secures a historic 4-year television deal worth about $34 million.
There are indications that the dreaded and wanted Boko Haram terrorist leader Abubakar Shekau may have been killed. In a statement released by the headquarters of the Joint Task Force Operation Restore Hope in Maiduguri, the JTF claims that according to intelligence reports available to it, Shekau died of gunshot wounds received in an encounter with the JTF troops in one of their camps at Sambisa Forest on the 30th of June 2013. According to the JTF spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel Sagir Musa, Mr. Shekau was mortally wounded in the encounter and was sneaked into Amichide, a border community in Cameroon, for treatment from which he never recovered. The JTF says it believes that Shekau might have died between the 25th of July and the 3rd of August 2013. The U.S. Department of Justice had announced that it would pay a reward of $7 million to anyone with information that could lead to the arrest of the Boko Haram leader. The U.S. also declared wanted 4 other alleged terrorists believed to be spreading terrorism in the West African sub-region. The terrorist leader, in videos released recently, claimed the group would not stop its insurgency and would fight against the federal government until the country becomes Islamic. Meanwhile, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Azubike Ihejirika, has challenged officers and men of the Nigerian Army to put on their thinking caps and come up with better ways of tackling the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeastern part of the country. Addressing participants at a training workshop for commanding officers and senior Army officers from military formations under the 1 and 3rd Divisions of the Army in Kaduna, the Chief of Army Staff told officers and men of the Army to wake up to their responsibilities by re-strategizing on how to put an end to the insurgency in Adamawa, Borno and Yobe states once and for all.
You can shape the environment. The importance of effective training, the panacea for tackling contemporary challenges. This cannot be truer than now. All the years we have always talked about training. But those in the field will tell you that training cannot be excessive. We are now at a period where we must train and retrain in order to be effective. The first factor identified militating against our efforts was the issue of lack of mood. So as commanding officer, your first task is to get your officers and soldiers to realize that they are in an operational situation. And once you get that right, things will continue to fall in place.
Resumed negotiations between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities has once again reached a stalemate. At the end of a closed-door meeting, which lasted for about 3 hours, The chairman of the Needs Assessment Implementation Committee, Governor Gabriel Suswam, announced the launch of 100 billion naira by September the 1st to address infrastructure deficits in all universities across the country. The federal government further approved an additional intervention of 30 billion naira to be released to university councils as against the initial 92 billion demanded by ASU to resolve the issue of earned allowances. The president of ASU, Professor Nasir Fage, however, noted that the government's intervention move is tantamount to a renegotiation of the 2009 agreement, which would not be accepted by the union.
For the students, theaters and classrooms, labs and libraries, and a host of other infrastructure. Some will be renovations, some will be new. We are going to be constructing brand new hostels. Each of the hostels will take like 1,200 students in each of the universities. But we are going to face it. Not all the universities are going to start hostel at the same time, but each university in this country will have a project ongoing when the president flag off these infrastructure projects first week of September.
At today's meeting, it's clear to us that we have not really gone far in that aspect. But we were made to understand today that government is going to consult university governing councils, and then if there is any need for a subsequent meeting, we'll do that. So on the basis of that, we will also go back and inform our principal on the developments.
Well, while there is still no end to the ASU strike, the industrial action called by the Nigerian Union of Allied Health Professionals is beginning to affect some hospitals in Lagos. One of the places already feeling the impact of the industrial action is the National Orthopedic Hospital in Lagos, which has been deserted by the workers. The chairman of the Health Union, Lagos State Council, insists the strike will remain indefinite until their demands are met. The Health Union is calling for equity among the different health professions in appointments and benefits.
The demands are grouped into two. There were 5 of them that were originally agreed with the Minister of Health, the Minister of Labour and Productivity, Minister of Establishment, and the union. So you see other medical practitioners lording themselves over the other professions which we are against. It's one of the things we talked about. The law says that medically qualified persons can be. It could be a radiographer, it could be a physiotherapist. It is not strictly bound to be medical practitioner. The others who are not medical practitioners are not even allowed to get up to cohorts for 15, which is equivalent to level 17.
Now, lack of integrity in the leadership of the country is an underlining statement which came up at the Nigeria Leadership Initiative Forum held in Lagos today. Foremost Nigerian industrialist and chairman of the Shaw P Committee, Dr. Christopher Kolade, says politicians in Nigeria have allowed politics to override the idea of governance.
Oftentimes, when most Nigerians talk about the leadership question, young people are always at the center of the discourse. Looking around this room, one may agree that the right people for this forum are here.
Policies your state government have.
It is another edition in a series of the Nigeria Leadership Initiative, and the spotlight in this session falls on Katsina State in Nigeria's northwest. Governor Shema, represented by his head of service, Muhammadu Aliyu, spoke about the development in the state as there are enormous challenges at this time in the area of governance and leadership in Nigeria's north.
It goes on us as a leader, also His Excellency, to ensure that succession is undertaken, and his paper showed that this is going to be through democratization. That's why he said in the paper that succession cannot be constructed digitally through legislation.
It was a speech which inspired many in the room. Applauses came afterwards, and several questions also poured in.
Also, what is the kind of stuff?
Dr. Christopher Kolade, the head of the Shaw P Committee set up by the president, stepped up to the podium. His opinion on leadership and governance in the country caused many people in the room goose pimples.
Nigeria, unfortunately, is one place where we have allowed politics to obscure governance. One of the reasons why government generally in Nigeria runs short of credibility is that office holders cannot be trusted to even know the details of what they're doing. You know, we may be beginning to feel that Nigeria is an irredeemable cause. Why? Because those who hold the reins of responsibility often give us the impression that they do not have a sense of responsibility.
Perhaps one major problem the country is facing, which a lot of Nigerians are saying, is that of leadership. And that is one of the major issues that was brought to the fore at this interactive session. And at the end of the event, a lot of people are asking that Nigerian leaders need to be more accountable to the people. From Lagos, I'm Shehu Okinbaloye reporting for Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, President Goodluck Jonathan challenges players in the solid mineral sector, insists Nigeria's resources must not be allowed to waste. That's in a moment. Do stay with us.